Welcome, everyone. We're doing another deep dive today, really getting into the details behind the headlines.
Yeah, and today it's pretty serious. We're looking at that severe weather.
Exactly. The suspected tornadoes, the big storms that hit Missouri and Kentucky Friday into Saturday morning, that's May 16th and 17th.
We're basically trying to piece together the immediate impact, based on these first reports coming in.
It can feel like a lot of information flying around all at once with these things, so our goal here is to kind of sift through it, find the most important bits.
Make sense of what we know so far.
Mm-hmm.
And right off the bat, the human cost is just stark. We're hearing initial reports, at least 21 people killed across both states.
21? Wow.
Yeah, in Kentucky, Governor Beshear, he posted on X saying 14 deaths confirmed there, but they expect that number might rise.
Oh, that's grim.
And in Missouri reported 5 in St. Louis County and then another 2 down in Scott County. It's just devastating figures. Really shows the power we're talking about.
It really is heartbreaking. And then there are the injuries, which sound widespread, too.
Definitely. In Laurel County, Kentucky, the sheriff there mentioned numerous severe injuries. That was from a tornado touchdown late Friday night. Search and rescue is still going on there.
Still ongoing.
Yeah.
And St. Louis, you mentioned the county fatalities, but the city impact sounds huge, too. Officials estimating maybe over 5,000 homes affected.
It's a staggering number, yeah. 5,000.
That's hard to even picture.
It is. And what's interesting, or perhaps telling, is that the fire chief said the worst damage seems concentrated in about a 20 square block area.
So really intense, localized destruction.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
It suggests maybe a direct hit in that zone.
And they imposed a curfew, didn't they, in a northern section of the city?
They did, yeah. Forest Park up to the northern boundary until 6 a.m. Saturday. Shows how serious the situation was trying to keep order.
Makes sense. You need clear streets for emergency vehicles.
And speaking of emergencies, the hospitals. What are we hearing there? Well, the strain was definitely felt. St. Louis Children's Hospital and Barnes Jewish. Between them, they saw at least 35 patients related to the storm.
35. Any details on their conditions?
Some. Children's had 15 patients. Good news was most were expected to be released Friday night. The one initially was critical.
Okay, mostly minor then, thankfully.
Seems like it, for most of them. Barnes Jewish took in at least 20, maybe even 30 people. And kind of a similar story, some released, but others had serious injuries.
Right. And the mayor, Mayor Spencer, gave updates too.
Yeah, through news conferences. The fatality count in the city itself actually went up. Initially 4, then revised to 5.
5 within the city limits.
Correct. And 2 of those deaths were in North City. That's an area where people reported seeing a vortex, a funnel.
Ah, so that connects back to that concentrated damage idea.
It seems to, yeah. Suggests that specific area got hit incredibly hard.
And the response effort. Search and rescue.
Described as all hands on deck in St. Louis. You had local police, the State Highway Patrol, responders from nearby counties, everyone pitching in.
Just trying to find anyone trapped or needing help.
Exactly. But they faced a huge challenge.
The power outages, I bet?
Yep, massive power outages. PowerOutage.us showed over 40,000 customers without power just in the St. Louis region Friday night.
40,000.
And across the whole state of Missouri. Over 97,000.
Wow. That makes everything harder. Searching in the dark, no communication.
Precisely. It hampers rescue efforts significantly.
But there was that one incredible rescue story, right? The man pulled from the collapsed house.
Oh, yeah. That was something. Took hours to get him out, apparently.
Yeah.
From the rubble of his home in the St. Louis area.
And he was okay, relatively speaking.
Surprisingly good condition, is what the report said. Which is amazing after a house collapses on you.
Did they say how he survived?
It sounds like he took shelter inside the home, maybe in a pantry or a small, sturdy space. Quick thinking, that probably saved his life.
Incredible. It just goes to show.
It does. Now, about the events themselves.
Yeah.
They're calling them suspected tornadoes, for now.
Right. Need that official confirmation. The St. Louis one, they timed it around 2:30 p.m. near Forest Park.
Yeah, moving east towards Granite City, Illinois. But the strength, the EF rating, that's still unknown.
That comes later from the National Weather Service teams on the ground.
Exactly. NWS spotters have to survey the damage path, look at the debris, how far things were thrown, what kind of structures failed. All that goes into figuring out the wind speed and the rating.
Makes sense.
The local NWS office did say on X, though, that radar and the damage report strongly suggest it was a tornado. They're sending out a survey team.
Okay, so likely confirmation coming. And there was talk of maybe a second one?
Yeah, KSDK reported that possibility. The NWS is looking into that as well, still working to confirm if there were multiple tornadoes in that region.
And down in Scott County, the sheriff there didn't mince words.
No, he didn't. Sheriff Wheatley called it a devastating tornado. Said it moved across the eastern part of his county.
Causing huge destruction.
Widespread destruction, yeah. He said some areas were just unrecognizable.
Unrecognizable. That really paints a picture. Shows how varied the impact can be even within one storm system.
Absolutely. Some spots get glanced, others get obliterated.
So what caused all this? What was the bigger weather setup?
Well, it was tied to a pretty fast-moving low-pressure system, moving east-northeast, right over that whole Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Missouri area.
Which explains why that whole region was under a tornado watch, right? Until late Friday.
Exactly. The potential was definitely there. And the dynamics were pretty potent. You had this clash of air masses. Basically a cool, almost winter-like storm system bumping up against a heat wave down to the southwest.
Hot meets cold.
Right. And when that happens, you get really unstable air. The cold, dense air lifts the warm, moist air very quickly. Add in some wind shear winds, changing speed or direction with height, and boom.
You get the rotation needed for supercells and tornadoes.
That's the recipe, yeah. Creates those powerful, organized thunderstorms.
And this wasn't just a Friday thing either. Things were rough on Thursday in other places.
They were. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois.
Yeah.
They all saw severe weather Thursday. Reports of 11 unconfirmed tornadoes up there.
11. Wow.
Yeah, and remember that Beyoncé concert in Chicago got delayed because the weather was so bad. So this was a pretty widespread, potent system moving through.
Definitely puts it in context. Back in St. Louis, the damage descriptions, roofs peeled off, trees down.
Yep, classic signs of very strong winds, possibly tornadic, especially within that 20-block area we talked about. Yeah. Utility lines down everywhere, too.
And that story about the Harlem tap room.
Oh, yeah. The historic bar.
Yeah.
80 years old on the north side. Really badly damaged.
But the people inside.
Incredible story. Apparently, a patron saw the lights flickering, warned everybody, and they moved to the back of the building just in time.
Likely saved lives. Just someone paying attention.
Absolutely. Moments like that amidst the chaos are pretty powerful.
It really is. And officials were asking people to stay put, right, during the immediate response.
Yeah. St. Louis city officials, the police, urging the public to stay off the roads unless absolutely necessary. Let the first responders do their work. Critical message in these situations.
Makes sense. And even the utility companies, Spire Energy, I think, reported severe damage to homes.
They did. They serve like 1.7 million customers, so they see a lot. And yeah, video showed collapsed walls, big tree limbs down, power lines everywhere, which confirms the scale of the destruction.
Clayton City Hall even had to close temporarily. They were coordinating the response.
Right. Just shows how resources get stretched and focused during these events.
So wrapping this up, based on these initial reports, it's a pretty grim picture, isn't it?
It is. Significant loss of life, widespread damage across Missouri and Kentucky. Seems clear that suspected tornadoes, along with other severe weather, hit hard.
And the focus right now is still search and recovery, figuring out the full extent.
Definitely. The assessments are ongoing. We don't have the full picture yet.
But we are seeing those human stories emerge too. The resilience, like the rescue you mentioned, or the warning at the bar.
Yeah, those moments of community response, people helping each other. That's always part of these events too.
It's crucial to remember that.
And just to reiterate, this deep dive is really a snapshot. Based on the first reports, things will become clearer as the NWS does its surveys, as officials release more info.
For sure, it will evolve. Which kind of leads to a bigger thought, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, you hear about these severe weather events seemingly more often, or maybe just impacting populated areas more intensely. It makes you wonder.
About preparedness, infrastructure.
Exactly. What are the bigger implications here? How do our communities need to adapt, plan, maybe even build differently facing this kind of threat?
That's a really important question, something that definitely needs ongoing discussion, especially as we learn more from events like this one.
Absolutely. It's something for all of us to think about. For now, definitely keep an eye on your local news for the very latest updates on the ground there.